All right. I don't know. I don't know if anybody's in here. I'm going to have to get everybody to come over to this new video. It wouldn't let me get into the one I set up earlier today. I don't know. It's some people are going to see it. There you go. I don't know what to tell. I don't know what to tell you. Just when I think I have everything filled out, they pull me back in. Boy, that was weird. I hope everybody gets over from that other. This has been such a weird day on the internet. Facebook doesn't work. And then all I usually have to do is schedule it like I do, and I post the link, and then I just go in and go live, and everything's there. And that's not what happened today. Something new with an encoder that has never popped up before, ever, in a year and a half of doing that show. So I'm hoping other people, Nana, I know other people waiting. I can't make that one work. I can't make it work. So Nana, if you go over there, maybe I'll get, Sheree, get everybody. Hold on a second. Crazy. It's just so crazy. I don't know why. I wish I could videotape it for you, but I now see that between last week, Wednesday, which would have been the 6th, and now Facebook has changed or YouTube has changed something regarding the requirements to live stream. And the only way that you can get around it, it seems, if you just go live right then. If you schedule anything, then expects you to do all these other things. Very, very strange. Hello, everyone. I don't know what's going on. And I had no idea. I mean, just when I get everything figured out with the Patreon stuff, this happens. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I really don't. I'm going to have to. Martin, I could try Twitch and other things. I didn't know that I had to because I've never had the problem. I mean, for the last year and a half doing the show, I set it up. I go into my live show, go into the one that's already scheduled. There's a dashboard there. You hit go live and it works. The go live button won't work. And it has to do with copying a link and doing this and doing that. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm going to have to take some time to look at it. If I have anything, I don't have anything else to do. So there you go. Yeah, it's been such a weird day. I guess this kind of tops it all off as far as the internet goes. Facebook is so there. Layla, yes, here I am, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for coming over to the new spot. I really don't, I don't know. I'm going to have to take a look at it afterwards. So there you go. There's always something, Ann. There is always something. I agree with you. Okay, what did I love? Okay, I gave a woman whose husband is missing your name today. Great. I look forward to hearing from her. And I hope everybody gets over here that is waiting. Yep, there you go, Susan and Blaze. I don't know what was going on with that other thing. It may still be going on. It may be running. I have no idea. So, hey, Joyce, did you get my text today, Joyce? Please let me know that you got my text that I sent you today. So that's something I'm going to have to look at. Like one more thing I need to look at. But I couldn't even post about the show tonight because Facebook wouldn't let me post anything. I saw that the Tampa area is one of the biggest places where they're having big problems with Facebook and Instagram today. Well, that happens to be where I live. So it was a nightmare trying to read anything, post anything. It started going bad around noon today. The case is Tim Sharf missing from Bel Air, Maryland. I'm not familiar with it. So I hope she gets in contact with me, I love. Christina, thank you for leaving my message over there. Yeah, Tammy's. Yeah, Joyce, check your messages. Yeah, Tammy, it's been messed up for me too. Couldn't get anything done on there today at all. At all. Thank you, Nana. D, thank you for everybody going back over to the other place where people are waiting and bringing everybody over here. If you're just tuning in, you haven't missed much. Me just complaining. Maybe you can tell that my allergies are gone pretty much. No more coughing, no more stuff coming up, not a lot of sniffling. It feels really nice. The month of February is always horrible. It just is for my allergies, but I'm feeling a lot better now, sleeping better, the whole thing. What else is going on? I think, yeah, Jessica says no Facebook access at all here since like 10:30. I've had access. I just can't post anything, Jessica. Just can't post anything. So I'm glad I'm glad we got, you're welcome, Joyce. We can talk about it later if you want, Joyce. Valerie, are you in Vegas? Is that right? Where are you in Vegas? I would love to know. Love Vegas. Probably will move back there one day, Valerie. Thank you for saying I sound a lot better. Oh, I feel a lot better. Thanks, Ann. I appreciate that. Thanks for the compliment. Blaze, how far am I from Jacksonville? About 3.5 hours is how far I am. Vicky Clifton, also known as Silver Streak Beauty. Finally. Yeah, Vicky. Thanks for tuning in tonight. I'm glad everybody found it, especially considering I couldn't, post anything about the program tonight. And then me trying to get in there messed everything up. So I just don't know. Oklahoma's having problems too. Okay, D. Well, in other news, I think I found the place I'll be moving to. It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. I will tell you, there is no way I could afford it if my dad wasn't going halvesies on it with me, because he's going to be coming down here and spending some time with me. So it's a 2-bedroom, and it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. But I think this time, I thought I found a place like a week ago or over a week ago, and the person decided they were going to suddenly up the rent. I said, no, I can't afford that. So we ditched that. And then the realtor I was working with found another place, coincidentally, in the same building, but 1 floor up. So I think it's going to work out. It's pretty nice. And I will surely show all of you some pictures of it. But I don't want anybody to get any ideas about anything, because I could never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever afford it if Dad wasn't going halvesies on me, with me, because like I said, he's going to be coming down and spending time with me at times. Oh, you live in Henderson Lake, Las Vegas area. Is that right, Valerie? I know exactly where that is. I've been up there. Sure. Sure. Thank you, Jasmine. It's a twin thing. Asked me, Ed, have you ever heard of Caitlin Akins missing from my area? Spotsylvania County, Virginia. No, I haven't. No, I've not. If you wanted to send me some information on it, it's a twins thing. I'll surely take a look at it for sure. Promise. Tammy, will he maybe go halvesies on my mortgage as well? Unfortunately, Tammy, probably not. My dad is a nice guy though. But I wouldn't be moved. Trust me. I would be very happy staying right where I am right now. But I just live in this tiny little 1-bedroom, and Dad wants to come down and spend some time, and I'm not sleeping on the couch. So I had to get someplace else. And the only way that was going to happen is if he went in with me. I said, that's the only way it's going to happen. So there you go. How's my dad with stairs? He lives in a 1-floor thing, and the building we're moving into has an elevator, so there won't be any problems, boys. Martin, I don't have any updates on Ben Padilla at all. In fact, I've not even talked to Tim Wright in quite a while. Maybe I should put that on my list of things to do. Thank you for reminding me, Martin. I don't have any updates on that. Caitlin was murdered by his stepdad. Like I said, I love, you want to send that to me? I'll be happy to take a look at it, see what I can do. She was on Disappeared. I'd have to take a look. Rekka, Carrie Bentley, and I are in here. Okay. Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Susie. I think so too. I will send it to you. Would love your input as well as the family. I will email you what I have. Okay. Okay. All right. What else is going on today? Newsletter. It's getting toward the middle of the month, and I'll be working probably on the newsletter probably on Friday night into Saturday. So look for it this weekend. So if you believe that you are on the list and have received the previous newsletters, then you will be getting one this weekend. If you don't think that you're on the list and have never received a newsletter before, the Unfound newsletter, where I let everybody let everybody know what's going on behind the scenes. You can contact me privately. Do not put your email in a place where everybody else can see it. I wouldn't do that. So you can email me at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com or Facebook Messenger as long as it's working. If you send me your email, I will put you on the list and you will be getting it this weekend. And yes, I've moved away from Google as far as using it for that. I will be using MailChimp, so I shouldn't have any problems emailing out a newsletter this month, unlike last month. All these things. Why can't things just stay the same? I don't know. Logan Tucker. Sounds familiar, D, but that's about it. Oakley, what's going on tonight? Good to see you in here. Thanks for joining in. So look for the newsletter. Once again, if you've never received the newsletter, you don't think you're on the list, send me your email privately, and I will get you on the list for this weekend. The next thing I want to talk about is we've been doing a lot. I've been doing a lot behind the scenes regarding a cluster of cases that I can't talk about. I've actually talked to some former guests of Unfound, more of the expert type, not family type, but expert types who have been on the program about what I'm doing. In fact, I talked to Caroline Lowe today. Of course, she is one of the writers, reporters at findjody.com for Jody Huisentruit. I had a conversation with her. I had a conversation with my Texas sheriff contact. Has nothing to do with Thomas Brown's case. It's in another part of Texas. A woman that I confide in once in a while about these things that I'm working on. And this is something that's going on very, very deep in the background that maybe one of these days I hope to be able to cover in a lot of depth. And there's probably a long ways to go before it becomes aired, but this is something when I'm not working on that week's episode and not taking phone calls for upcoming episodes, things like that. I'm working on this in the background, and hopefully we're going to be able to move a bunch of cases forward all at one time, hopefully. All in one swoop, because they all happened in a particular area and very close to one another. And I'm hoping that we can really do some good work there, but it's going to take some time. And in fact, I've already talked to Cherie about it. Emily knows about it. And it very well may be this is a situation where I cover a multitude of disappearances all in one episode, which means it might be like 10 hours long. I know that's crazy. I don't know how Podomatic will react to that. I don't know how iTunes will react to that. But I hope that when I can put this all together, once again, behind the scenes, that I can do one huge episode, multiple interviews with multiple different family members, and it could be one huge, long, epic episode. I hope. That's the plan. So I'm working on it. K-Boy says, sorry, can you say your email once more, please, if you can? Sure. Unfoundpodcast@gmail.com is where you should send your email address if you'd like to get the newsletter. Unfoundpodcast@gmail.com, all one word. I've heard of the Breland Maitland case in Vermont, Unchained. I've read about it, know a lot about it. That's the one where they found her car wrecked into a barn, right? I have to turn off the air conditioning. That's the one where they found her car wrecked in the barn. I think so. Yeah, I'm familiar with it. Yes. Well, we wouldn't. Well, you'd have to listen for 10 hours, Michelle. Not watch, but listen for 10 hours. Yeah, maybe. It may be that. We may get to that point. And I'm hoping if I can get all of the families to get together, and I've only talked to about 3 of them so far. Still have a ways to go. But it would probably be it's going to be very, 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 very long. Way longer than anything I've done. But that's the kind of attention that I think these cases need. Thank you, Oakley. Mega podcast. Yes, it would be a mega podcast. Yes. But once again, because it's going to be in depth, it's going to go deeper than anybody has done on these particular cases. And there are certainly, what I'm learning about all of them so far is there's certainly some things that were dropped. I mean, I have people who have kind of volunteered. We're actually looking to talk to witnesses and reporters who actually covered these disappearances originally. I don't usually do that. But in looking at some of the things that were a little suspicious, I thought that that's what it deserved. So that's what I have some people doing this behind the scenes. Sharia has been involved. Emily has been involved. And once again, some people who have been on the program before, and then some of my confidants for the program also are all involved in this. James, thanks for tuning in tonight. I appreciate it. I deeply appreciate you taking time on your Wednesday night. Thank you. Yes, Oakley, it's been covered by a few mega. Brianna's has been covered a few times. I would surely like to take a look at it. I don't think that I've ever tried contacting your family. I don't think Emily has either. But that's always a possibility. That's always. And by the way, it's Cherie that's posting his Unfound podcast tonight as usual, and she's keeping a finger on the troll button. Mark, I'm sorry I'm new, but me and my girl have been following the Thomas Brown case. Can we get an update? Mark, I really don't have any updates for you. I've heard some rumors. In fact, I will tell you, I can at least say this. I was talking to Penny as much as I could on Facebook today because it was all messed up. I will tell you that I did talk to Penny for a little bit today about a few things, but I unfortunately can't tell you what those are. But there's still the questions out there as to who actually found Thomas's remains. That's still unclear to me. It's still unclear, I think, to some people, many people, most people. And it's still unclear as to what condition the remains were in. Were they buried? Were they on top of the ground? I don't know about that, but I'm working on it. I've had some people come forwards with some stories that maybe sound believable to me, but I have no confirmation on them. So I would never go public with them. So I really can't. I don't have any public updates. I'm getting information every day. It's just it's a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation, a lot of hype. A lot of opinions and things, not a lot of hard facts. So until I get some hard facts that can be backed up, I can't go public with anything. But I can assure you, Mark, that I'm hearing about it every day. Every day. Thank you, Layla. Mark says, okay, thank you. I understand, but it is definitely his remains. It's definitely his remains. Yeah, that was for sure 100%. I mean, they even had burial service for him like a month ago. So absolutely it's him. It is he, to use proper English. It's just a matter of figuring out who killed him because it is now a murder investigation. All I can tell you is that whatever they discovered of the remains, there was proof that he was murdered. I don't know what that proof is. I don't know. I mean, if I knew, I couldn't tell you, but you'll just have to trust me. I have no idea. Let's talk about that. Blaze, thank you for bringing that up. Penny, Penny was on the radio last week, I guess the day after this show, maybe last Thursday then. Or maybe it was before that, but she was on the radio. Not, I would say, and it's not her fault, not the most revealing of interviews done by the guy at KXDJ. What I find interesting is he only brought up Nathan Lewis once. He didn't even say his name, just brought up the sheriff's office once. And he asking Penny, is the sheriff's office involved in the investigation? And that answer is an explicit no, not anymore. And it's been that way for a while. But she was on the radio, but I would not say that it was really any groundbreaking material released. And there was no confrontation or anything like that between her and the host. But that's not Penny's fault. I can tell you that Penny was ready to say a lot on that episode if she was asked. She wasn't asked, so she didn't say anything. That's all I can really say. Because she and I talked at least a little bit about it before she went on the air. That's all I can say. They never did find Donnie Smatlek. That is still an open case, Khalil. Thanks, Pamela. Right, D. D says there was really nothing there, really. That's true. D. Jessica, have you ever considered doing a more in-depth interview with her yourself? Jessica, you mean with Penny? Jessica, I think that the most in-depth interview she's ever done is with me. And I think that interview that she did, what was it, June last year, is still most in-depth interview, the most information you're ever going to find out about the case anywhere, even after Thomas' remains have been found. Unfortunately, I think that if I were to talk to Penny, and we talk often, but it's not about facts anymore. It's about rumors and trying to substantiate them. And you know how I feel about talking, doing interviews where it's just rumors and theories. I don't do that. So as far as in-depth facts of the case, they're out there. And I think that everything that is need to be said factually regarding Thomas Brown's case is out there. And just, I have nothing against talking to Penny, but I don't know how much more in-depth we can go without getting into theories and unsubstantiated rumors and everything else. That's my opinion. Penny may have a different one, but the reason that I thought it would be interesting when she did this interview, I guess it was last week now, is because the person who was interviewing her has a completely different idea about what happened that night. And I thought there might be a little bit of this going on. That didn't happen because the host didn't bring it up. She and I have already talked about it. So there's really nothing much more to say about Nathan Lewis and Hemphill County and everything that went on that night. That's my opinion. Karina, Ed, I posted Klein's live video on Unfound discussion group. Not sure if you watched it, but he mentioned multiple suspects. Thoughts? Phil Klein says a lot of things. He's been saying a lot of things since Thomas's remains were found. So far, they're unsubstantiated. And I have to wonder at some point when the Attorney General and the Texas Ranger and everybody are going to try to shut him up. If this is a real investigation, it seems to me Phil Klein is speaking out of school. I don't know that. Maybe he's just saying that stuff for no reason. It just seems to me that he's making a lot of promises and going out on very thin limbs, and nothing's been shown yet to back that up. I don't know. I don't know what he knows, but I think that if I was in the Attorney General's office or the Texas Rangers and he was saying things like that, I think I'd be a little pissed. I think. I don't know. A more recent one to allow her a platform. Once again, Jessica, I don't know what we would talk about. I don't know, except for rumors, because the facts are out there. The facts regarding the case are out there. Not much has changed since last summer as far as the facts go, as far as that night and everything else. And I think everybody's pretty much caught up on the investigation. And Phil Klein's done a few videos and things. I don't know. Blaze says, I guess we will have to wait until they slap the cuffs on somebody. That may be the case, Blaze. Just Phil Klein likes to talk a lot. I know. The Asha degree case just blows my mind. So sad. Why would she leave her home in the middle of the night in that weather? Valerie, I'm not familiar with it, unfortunately. Jessica, I agree with your statement. I'm not going to read it out. D agrees with me. Thank you, D. I always love it when people agree with me. And I'm just not familiar with that case. Katrina says, I'm with you, Ed. He has said for 2 years. I'm sorry, but don't see it happening. I do. I absolutely think Thomas Brown's case is solvable. If Phil Klein is saying that, I agree with him. What I'm saying is that he's been saying a lot. He's been making a lot of, provocative statements. He's been making a lot of provocative statements regarding the investigation and who's involved and everything. I just wonder how the Attorney General and Texas Rangers feel about that. And could it be to this point that they're giving him disinformation because he does talk so much to the public? I think that's possible. D, but me and you have talked about on Messenger. I'm not sure what you're saying there, D. Okay. If the right people talk, right, Khalil? So that's all I really have for Thomas Brown. We can go on all night. I just don't want to start, beating the same drum over and over and over about it. There's no new facts. There's a lot of new theories and unsubstantiated claims, which is always the case. And when I get, once again, I have people out there trying to figure out who found his remains. Now, I know probably Attorney General office knows that, Texas Rangers. Well, I would love to get hard evidence of who did, because once I do, I'm going public with it, and there's nothing they can do to stop me. Okay? When I find that out and it's substantiated and everything, I'll go public with it, and I won't do that a second before that, because I think that's important, especially since the reward hasn't been paid out yet. What do I want to talk about? So there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's one of the reasons that the books haven't been getting done, because I've really been trying to get a little deeper into some of these cases that I'm encountering, instead of just, talking to a family member and then just going with it. I've been trying to tutor them a little bit more. And I think a perfect example will be this Friday's case, Devin Brown-Boussetta, which we'll talk about in a little bit. There are a couple things that I do want to talk about. A couple things in the news that made national headlines that I think are important. And I do want to cover them for the show. Vicky, Ed, have you had an opportunity to speak with Zoe Campus's mother? I'm glad they have the murder, but now they are heartbroken. Vicky, I talked to Melinda. I think I was still in Pennsylvania when I did that. I'm going to say that I had to have been in mid-January. I might give her a call. Maybe I need to put that on my list of things to do. I have talked to her since Carlos Rodriguez was in custody. Yes, I have. But not recently, as in the last couple weeks. Last time I talked to her when I was still in Pennsylvania in January. Katrina, does Penny know who found his remains? No, she does not. She does not. And I think that she would be honest with me if she did. She claims she did not. That's why I would like to find out for her. But I have to do that not following rumors, but following hard facts, because I want to be able to give her the right information. To my knowledge, nobody has ever told her that. Why? You can kind of guess that for yourself. It is weird, Blaze. I agree. I want to talk about Crystal Haag, H-A-A-G. She was a young woman at 14 who vanished. She vanished 21 years ago in 1997. And it was thought, of course, at the time that somebody abducted her from the Baltimore area. Well, now 21 years later, she's still alive. She has children, and she and her family have been reunited. And now we know the whole story. And in fact, I know a couple people have posted that story in the Unfound podcast discussion group. And it's a very eye-opening story. I think we can learn a lot about it. Learn a lot about missing persons cases from this particular case. Yes, Katrina. Yes, thank you for. If you were the one who posted that, Katrina, thank you for doing that. Important because, first of all, we now can understand that, you know what, a 14-year-old can leave her house, get on a bus, go to a totally different city in a totally different state, walk around there, and figure things out on how to survive. First of all, she faked how old, 20 or 21. She was able years ago how to get a new ID. She changed her name from Crystal Haig to Crystal Saunders. She said she doesn't even remember why she picked that name. And she started cleaning, working for a cleaning company, going into, housemaid of some type for or restaurants and things. And she built up her life. She ended up learning Spanish. In fact, you even look at her when she's 14. And now that you look at her now, I mean, you can tell back in, I mean, she looks, let's just put it, Western European, whitey guy. Well, now, all these years later, you can tell she's assimilated her city, and now she kind of looks Hispanic, and she speaks fluent Spanish. She's completely changed her life. And it's you breaking up. I don't know what to tell you. A lot of internet stuff going on today. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. I look fine here, but I know that doesn't. I don't know what to tell you about. There's a lot of weird media stuff going on there. But yes, Katrina, I'm sorry. I'm just going to keep talking. She left, and one of the reasons that she left is because she believed that her mom knew that she was being molested by somebody and didn't do anything about it. Her mother to this day claims she didn't know. I don't know what the truth is. Susan says it'd be harder to do this today than 20 years ago. Maybe, I don't know. Lulu says, wow, that's amazing if a 14-year-old can do that. Right. Blaze says she got her social security card and all her stuff in New York. Right. So she ended up having children. I think she has like 4 kids or something like that. And then I think one of the main reasons that she got back and she admitted once Facebook came around, she was keeping tabs on her family from New York. And then one of the main reasons that she ended up getting back in touch with her family is because her kids started asking. They were getting to the age where they were like, where's your mother? And don't you have a family and everything? And then that's what made her think, you know what? Maybe it's about that time that I get back in touch with my mother and my siblings and everything. So it can be done. It's still a very rare case. And in fact, in the article, which I think was from the Washington Post, the stat was that between 2011 and 2016, only 56 children have returned who were gone more than 20 years. I'll admit, that to me sounds like a high number. I mean, you think time that 56 children have returned after 20 years, to me is amazing. I would think it might be 20 or even less. So to think that it's 56, that sounds like a lot to me. And, obviously it gives a lot of people out there hope that maybe their teenager just kind of walked off and was not abducted and sex trafficked or something like that. Now, I did take some time to go back and look at Unfound's cases. Now, of course, there are a few that could fall into this category of young people who walked off. I don't know. I don't know how you would even look at this case / Crystal Saunders and be able to tell that she really did walk off. I don't think there were any facts back in 1990 ever anybody would have thought that. I think that the more common sense attitude would be that she was abducted. So you really can't look at a case. Once again, this is what makes missing persons cases so difficult. Nana says YouTube is really bogged down. I don't know. That does sound high. Yeah, the 56 number does sound high. Yeah, D, you're right. High number. That sounds awfully high. I know, but that's what the article said. I'm going to just take for granted that's true, and I hope it's 56. Just sound kind of high. And I'm guessing maybe a lot of those might have been parental abductions, something like that, where the kids were finally on their own, got in contact back with their parents because in the first place they were taken. I think we have to figure that into there too. So there's that. I think the ones facing legal problems ran away and chained. For teenagers, what charges could be against them that would, really cause them to run away? I don't know. Maybe that's possible. Maybe. Okay. The sound is very choppy. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. This is what's going on in the internet tonight. Somebody somewhere did something wrong today that has really messed up the internet. Or as somebody said, maybe it's the weather. I guess it's really windy and things. I don't know. D says, I even think I could just walk off as an adult. This is something you always have to consider. But, anytime though, and a lot of times on Unfound, we have suspects. Anytime there are some pretty good suspects, I'm inclined to think probably the person didn't walk away. On the other hand, in those cases where there aren't any suspects, then I think that the walk-off scenario is much more probable. I know that seems maybe evident, but that's the way I, kind of look at it. Once again, I apologize for the quality. There's nothing I can do. I don't really know what's going on with the internet tonight. So I wanted to cover that. I think that gives some hope to a lot of people, a lot of maybe guests from Unfound, and a lot of people who aren't guests are going to look at that story and feel really good maybe that'll happen to them one day. But once again, the odds of that happening are so small. Just so small. Is that police lights? Those were ambulance lights. That's very observant of you, Khalil Boy 97. Yes, for a while there was a fire truck and an ambulance parked right outside my door, my window here, and I think that they were over at this building right next to me, which is kind of a condo high-rise type of place. I think it has 4 or 5 floors. It's right to my left, and I think that they were in there. Something was going on over there. But you're right. It was not police. It was fire truck and ambulance. Very observant. Ed, I left an abusive relationship. He didn't find me for 3 weeks. Well, D, I hope you're still out of that relationship, and I hope you're safe. Mimi, going back to the Thomas Brown case, I think if a deputy was the one that found the remains or was the tipster in Tom's case, I'm sure there would be I'm not sure there would be a payout. Probably not. But once again, I'm not getting any rumors started. I will just say that you're probably right if that is the case. No, it wasn't the police, Tammy. I'm okay. I'm good. Not breaking any laws here in Florida. I'm good. There's no reason to come after me. I want to talk about something else, another case that caught my eye. Once again, another one that's been solved after many years, and that was the disappearance of Cynthia Merkley, who was identified after 28 years. her remains were found in Vacaville, California, which I understand is in Northern California, in 1991. Now, the reason that they were found, probably by a little bit of luck, where she ended up, where her remains were, they were starting to move the dirt around to put in some sort of strip mall or premium outlets or something like that, and her remains were found. Unidentified at the time. But they didn't know what to do, so they buried her. And then in 1998, they pulled up her remains again and took fingerprints. And believe it or not, this is what is amazing to me about this particular story, is that they did not identify her through DNA. They went old school and used fingerprints to identify her, which is amazing. And that, I think that we forget that while DNA technology continues to improve, fingerprinting technology has continued to improve. So to the point where the technology was not good enough to match her fingerprints with anyone. But in 2018, the technology was there, the database was there, et cetera, that they could match her fingerprints up with her, and they found out that this was a woman who disappeared in 1991. Now, the reason probably that it wasn't solved even earlier is because there was never a missing persons report filed on her. None. No paperwork at all. And she was estranged from her family, so they didn't even know that she was missing. They thought that she just went off one day and that was it. But there was something that maybe Cynthia had a criminal record or something like that. Somewhere her fingerprints were in a database or somewhere in California. And finally, after all these years, it was matched up. So we get so caught up in DNA that we forget that fingerprints can still be used. Remember, you can't use that DNA matchup if somebody in your family, we know, like, of course, the original Night Stalker, and a lot of cases that are now popping up, those suspects need someone else in their family, of course, by accident or unknowingly, to go give their DNA to one of these private companies, and that's how a lot of these criminals are getting caught. Well, if that's not done, you can't use DNA that way. But in this case, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, this is going to be one of these DNA cases that we're seeing all the time now. And that's not the case. It was fingerprints. So I thought that I really needed to talk about that because we kind of forget about it. I mean, fingerprints used to be the thing. Until the 1990s, fingerprints were the thing. Going back even to the 1800s. And we've kind of forgot about it, but fingerprints are still helping to solve cases, even old cases, because of the technology that's changing. Really very interesting. I think somebody did link to it in the group yesterday or the day before. So if you missed it, you can look it up. Her name is Cynthia Merkley from Vacaville, California. Once again, I really believe that the reason that she went unidentified so long is because nobody ever found a missing persons report regarding her. So let's see what some people. Happy Hippo says, "What's crazy is how many people's remains are buried all over without being found." Yeah, Happy. It's even hard to calculate. Who was I just talking to? One of a guest or a future guest, or we were talking about this. And see, my perception is this. I have no statistics to back this up. My instincts tell me that for disappearances that happen in cities of a decent size, say Tampa or Dallas or LA, these big cities, and then cities maybe a little smaller than that, like Lubbock, something like that. When people go missing in cities, I'm pretty sure for the most part, if they've been murdered, that they end up in maybe takes some of the garbage out, dumps the body in, puts the garbage on top, and they're on their way. I'm inclined to believe that happens in a lot of disappearances happen in urban areas. But for disappearances that happen outside of that, then we start talking about burying. I'm not inclined to believe that unless it's on their own property, maybe like Zoe Campos, who was buried on the property of Carlos Rodriguez. We have to leave that out as we have to, of course, keep that as an option as well. But the more you get out into the suburbs and then into the country, it's going to be more likely that a body has been buried, or maybe even going further, maybe dumped in a lake, weighted down, something like that. I try to keep that in mind when I'm covering disappearances, but I'm inclined to believe with city cases, city disappearances, is that a large majority of these people end up in a garbage bin somewhere, and many of them are already in a landfill somewhere. I know that's horrible, but that makes the most sense to me. It really does. Because once again, because it's so easy to do. 3 o'clock in the morning, go behind some strip mall. It's sitting there. There's usually garbage there. And you can get it, somebody could do that in like 5 minutes. And it makes these cases tough. That's why they're tough. Blaze, that's pretty amazing, but why do they footprint babies at birth and fingerprint adults? Blaze, I have no idea. I don't know. I don't have any kids. Maybe if I'd experienced that firsthand as a parent, I might know. I don't know. Thank you, Happy. It's so true. Thanks. The memer, have you ever found a body? No. No, that's why I say I have no statistics to back it up. Just using some logic. I have been on a search for Steven Kocher when I lived in Las Vegas. Of course, didn't find anything because he's still missing. So those are a couple news items for this past week that I wanted to discuss because I think that they are very relevant to what we do. And I think that they give some hope, to people out there who, hoping that their children come home someday. But it gives us more to think about as we think about all the cases Unfound has covered and all the ones that we are going to cover. Happy says, I think the footprint is just a keepsake. That may be. It is Happy. Charisse writes, it is Happy. I had to answer this question. I couldn't post if anybody has any questions tonight because, once again, Facebook wouldn't let me post anything after about noon today. So Diane had asked me, because she's going to be in Las Vegas, I think seeing a family member. She asked me what the best diner was in Las Vegas. If they didn't want to go to a really, really fancy place, but not a fast food place either. And I'm going to tell all of you, if you ever go to Vegas and you're staying on the Strip, wherever, whether you're way down by the Luxor or up like the Golden Nugget, I would recommend you check out the Peppermill Lounge, which is right on Las Vegas Boulevard. I ate there several times when I lived there in Las Vegas. Great food, great atmosphere, reasonably priced for a place on the Strip that is a touristy place, very reasonably priced and great food. Great kind of deli type of food. And if you, of course, can GPS it or Waze it, to find it. But the location is just, let me think about this. Just north of the Venetian. Let me think about this. But before you get to the Wynn, all right? It's between there on the east side of Las Vegas Boulevard. Great place to eat. That's where I told Diane to go. And if you'd like to see the interior of it, if you've ever watched Comedian in Cars Getting Coffee, Jerry Seinfeld show on Netflix. It wasn't on there before, but now it is. The episode that he does with George Wallace, which takes place in Las Vegas, they go and eat at the Peppermill Lounge. That's where a lot of their interaction takes place. So you'll be able to see how it looks inside. Very, very cool place. And easy to get to, reasonably priced, great food. Like I said, deli type food, like BLTs and things like that. Really good. The Memer, this is my first time here because I was looking for a nice small podcast and I'm enjoying myself here so far. The Memer, it's great to see you tonight. Thanks for joining on. Thanks for making time for the program on your Wednesday evening or Wednesday night. We're here every Wednesday. Been doing it for an hour and a half or for a year and a half. And thanks for joining in. I deeply appreciate it. Yeah, welcome the Memer, please. Yes, please do. Gene says DNA is the ultimate identification, but there's still instances where that doesn't even help, as in the case of identical twins. True. You're welcome, the Memer. Tammy, I posted a question today asking if you can give any tips for families who've had a loved one recently go missing. Basically, do this first, this second, etc. Tammy, I did not see that. Sure, I can talk about that. Bree, what's going on? Here's what I would tell families. I know this question's come up before, but we have a lot of new viewers, and it's probably been a while since I talked about this. When somebody that you know well, a loved one or a friend goes missing, and you are inclined to believe that they didn't just walk off, the first thing that you have to do, because this is what people don't do, is you have to start thinking about who would have wanted this person to disappear. Okay? That's the first thing you have to do. I know that sounds morbid and everything else, because I think a lot of people take the opposite idea that my loved one vanished. When are they coming back? I think it is healthier, although it's scary. But if the person's going to come back, they're going to come back. Okay? You can't make them come back. If they're an adult, they will come back when they feel like it, if they ever do. But if they went missing because of somebody else causing them to go missing, then you, as a responsible family member or friend, you need to start thinking, who could have done this to this person? And what you need to do is start calling that person, emailing that possible suspect, and you need to immediately find out, as best you can, because the police aren't going to do it, what the alibi is for that person for that day, that evening, that night. Were they on social media? Did they talk to anybody? Were they at work? Were they at the gym? Were they at a restaurant? Anything else? Okay, and I don't care if there's just one suspect or 10. That's the first thing you have to do, because that's the thing that most people don't do. Why? Because they're so in shock of having this happen to them that they're so caught up in, I hope my loved one comes back. I hope my loved one comes back. I hope my loved one comes back, that they don't think, who could have done this? Okay? That's the first thing the family should do. Because the police aren't going to do that, because as we know, the police dismiss every disappearance out there. Oh, they're going to come back. And that happens most of the time until somebody doesn't. So that's what I would say. I know that's like a very pessimistic view, because that implies maybe a murder did take place or something. But once again, families need to plan for the worst case scenario. If it's going to be the best case scenario, you can't do anything about that, because the person's going to come back on their own. So it's totally out of control. What is in a family's control is trying to figure out, okay, if this person, my loved one, my mother, my daughter, my son, whoever, was abducted or something like that, then who could have done this? And you go find that person. That's my recommendation. I think that I continue to say that I think that families leave too much of it up to the cops, and they take a very passive, reactive view to it instead of being proactive and just doing them things for themselves. Because the problem is there's nothing that a family is going to be able to say to a police officer who shows up to convince that police officer that there was a murder or anything. They're not going to be able to do that. That's just the way it is, unfortunately, right now. I'd love to change it, but that's the way it is. And yes, keep a journal. Thank you, Sharif, for pointing that out. Yes, document everything that you do. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because your memory over time, you're going to lose things. Things are going to get switched around in your mind. You got to write everything down that you're doing as well. Don't do anything illegal. Don't threaten anybody. Don't trespass. Don't bust down doors or anything else. But there are more than enough ways these days to get information on where people were and everything legally. Bree says, John Lorden from Lorden Arts on YouTube posted a great video about what families should do. It's about 40 minutes long. You can check that out. I've never seen it. The first thing I would do is message Ed. Susan, well, I can tell you this, Susan. If it's in the Tampa area, then that probably might be very helpful. If it's outside of this area, then I don't know what I'm going to be able to do it for a disappearance within those first few days or hours in a city 2,000 miles away. But Susan, could certainly post about it in the group. There's 5,000 people there, and I know people do that, and I know a lot of people have been found. So I appreciate that, Susan, though. Michelle says, call in your own search party professionals. Sir, I have nothing against search parties. The problem is very rarely do they ever find anything. So once again, that's why I would go to, let's just go to the automatic worst scenario that this person was abducted. Who would do that? Go find the person who would abduct that person. Where were they? What were they doing? Did anybody see them? That's what I would do. Michelle says, please only search so much. You need help. Tammany, great plan. I would hunt them down like a dog if one of my sons or husband went missing. That's right. And it also means for you parents out there who don't want to have kids go missing, you or even grown children, you kind of need to kind of sort of at least a little bit know who your daughters and sons are hanging around with. Okay? And if they seem like suspicious types and you can't do anything about their grown children, what are you going to do? You just need to kind of put that in the back of your head. If one of your daughter's son goes missing, those people should be checked out first. Katina says, my husband just asked what got you into the missing persons cases. Was it personal? Not personal. I don't have anybody in my family that went missing. I don't know anybody personally who went missing. It's just a lot of things that came together, Katina. I'm just naturally a curious guy. I think my mind organizes facts well. My mind does a really good job of seeing contradictions in information, not just with crime, but with anything else. When facts are presented to me, I can quickly pick out the things that contradict other things. I don't know why my mind's like that. I'm not a very good manager of people, but you give me information and I do pretty well. You found you're digging in the backyard sandbox. Well, I'm glad you found it, Blaze. Marie says they have kits online where you keep your child's hair and saliva for DNA samples. The memer says, I would really feel helpless if one of my siblings got kidnapped. I'm only a child. Yeah. It's up to the adults. Adults have to take charge. And then we know of cases where, for example, in the Mikhail Biggs case, where her daughter, Mikhail's younger sister was the last one to see her. And now all these years later, she's the one that is heading up trying to figure out what happened to Mikhail. Generational changes. And maybe, that's going to happen in a lot of these cases eventually. Searches still need to be carried out because finding nothing is just as important as finding something. That's true, Karen. You have a kit for both of your kids. Happy. Okay, good to hear that. Let's talk about this Friday's case. It is the disappearance of Devin Brown-Boussetta. She disappeared from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on September 6th, 2006. Now, you're going to see in some of the information, it says September 5th. The guest for that episode is Devin's aunt, Wilshire. And we were able to figure out September 5th is the last day that somebody actually saw her that they could prove. But on September 6th, Devin actually talked to another of her aunts the next day. So we're going to be using September 6th as the disappearance date, even though it's September 5th on NamUs and other places. If this case sounds familiar to you, it's a case that was covered by triblive.com when I was working with them toward the end of last year. And you should know that I'm not working with them for 2019. That's been their choice. Unfortunately, I thought we did a lot of great work in 2018. But what happened was Devin's case was publicized by the Tribune Review. And then Wilshire, her aunt, contacted me and she said, you know what? I'd love to do your show too. I said, absolutely. Let's get it done. So she is the guest for this Friday. We did the interview. When was it? Was it last night? No, it was Monday night. And we've since the good news is since the article in the Trib came out in November, December, Wilshire has been able to get more information. In fact, what I think happened is that because Devin's case got covered by the Trib, that suddenly the police became receptive to calls from Devin's family. Amazing how that works. So Wilshire has had access to the Pittsburgh police. She's been talking to a detective there who's been very helpful, who has gone back, looked at some of the paperwork, and was able to give Wilshire some new information that we can then publicize, that we will be publicizing on Friday for the interview. More information about where her car was found, where Devin's car was found. There was something about a maintenance man that we found out was not the case. We found out something else instead happened as to who went into Devin's apartment to discover that she wasn't there. So there's a lot more information that we'll be able to release to the public on Friday than was in the article that the Trib did in December. And that's no fault of their own. They did a great job. I think they actually got the ball rolling in this case. And that's why, once again, I think that the police are now talking to Devin's family after, for a long time, ignoring them. Once again, it happens. It also doesn't help that Devin's family is here in Florida. Devin has no family at all in Pennsylvania. I'm calling this episode. Let me see what some people. Let's see what some people are saying. There's very little information on this case. You're right, Devin. Well, you're right, Jessica. Well, on Friday, there's a lot of information. In fact, the interview goes about an hour and 50 minutes. So we cover a lot of territory. The memer, I used to live in Pittsburgh. Me too. I used to live in Pittsburgh too, or near Pittsburgh, the memer. So there you go. I'm calling this episode Stranger in a Strange Land because what happened was that Devin had met a guy in Orlando where she was living, Orlando, Florida. But this guy ended up moving her because he had business connections there to Pittsburgh. And they moved there in July of 2005. And over the course of like that next year until she disappeared, she was a little bit of a fish out of water. She didn't have any friends there. And then the guy she married filed for divorce. And then he went missing for a little while, then came back. It's a little bit of a crazy story. But I'm inclined to think that if Devin hadn't gone there, if this guy hadn't taken her there, had she been in Orlando where she was around friends and family and everybody else, I think she would still be here. But she got caught up in Pittsburgh's a great city, friendly city. But she was there. She ended up having to live on her own. she got a job, but she wasn't making any friends or anything. Once again, she was a stranger in a strange land, and I think that might have contributed to her disappearance. So that's what the episode's going to be called, Stranger in a Strange Land. The disappearance of Devin Brown-Boussetta on September 6th, 2006 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But you're right, Jessica, not a lot of information, but on Friday, we're going to change that. That's all I have. I was going to mention this. You'll notice that all Boeing's Oakley abusers trying to isolate their victim. Very possibly, Oakley. Very possibly. I think there's a couple different choices actually in this case. Really. But we will talk about it. We will talk about it, of course, in the group. And then, of course, post the poll and see what everybody thinks. And then, as you all know, we now have a think tank on Patreon for those supporters at a certain level. We're getting a lot of great things done there. And we'll talk about it there on Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, as long as the internet is working. Yeah, think tank on Sunday. Thank you, Cherie. Unfortunately, Airish86, I don't do murders. Unfound does not cover murders where there's a body left behind. We do missing persons cases only. So I'm sorry about that. Yes, we have a think. Yeah, the memer says a think tank. Yes. For people who are Patreon supporters at a certain level, which is the $12 a month level and above, we get together on Sunday nights and we talk about the case for that week. And we get into the nitty gritty of the case. And we try to come up with things that the family can do to move the case forward. And so the last couple of weeks, of course, with Sean Koski and the most recent cases, we've been able to do that. Yes, the memer, that's something that happens on Patreon. But once again, you have to contribute at a certain level, $12 a month. Okay. I love your work. Thank you. They just never found the guy, even though the town knew who it was. I just don't do murder cases where there's bodies left behind. I'm a missing persons person. That's what Unfound is. Thank you, Amy. So that's all I got. I guess we had a little bit of a rough start tonight. I'm going to have to work on it before next Sunday. I'm hoping it's not going to affect the Patreon show on Sunday nights. Oh my gosh. But so I talked about moving to a new place. I think I found a place. Allergies are about gone. The trainer, my personal trainer, is kicking my butt, but I'm noticing the changes. I'm down to about 181 pounds. When I came back from Pennsylvania, I was 189 pounds. I'm down to 181. Facebook and Instagram today, I have no idea what was going on there. Newsletter this weekend. If you're not on the list like the memer, if you would like to get on the list, contact me. If you'd like to be on the Unfound newsletter list, which is going to be going out this weekend. Do I want to discuss the stuff, the news about the airplane crashes, Ed? I know you. We've been going over an hour, full metal. I'm not going to get into it tonight. I have it on the list, but it's been over an hour, and my voice is kind of giving it up. So we'll leave that maybe for next week. Or something. Maybe I'll post something in the group or something once I can post on Facebook again. We talked about Crystal Haig on how she came back to her family after 21 years. We talked about Cynthia Merkley, who was identified through fingerprints after 20-some years. And then I answered the Pepper Mill is a great place to eat in Las Vegas. And then I told you that this Friday's case, Devin Brown-Boussetta, disappeared from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, September 6, 2006. The title of the episode is Stranger in a Strange Land. And the guest will be her aunt, Wilshire Council is her last name. And that was a case that the Tribune Review in Pittsburgh covered last year. I'm going to go. Thank you all. Thank you for dealing with the technical issues at the very beginning of this episode. I will figure it out by next week, I promise. And this is my favorite time of the week. That and Sunday nights when I get to talk to the Patreon people too. I now have two favorite times of the week. And then the third favorite time of the week is when the episodes come out. And then the fourth great time is when I get to talk to guests. So many great times doing this program. I feel so lucky to do it. And it feels really good to help people. So good night, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Deeply appreciate it. Good night.